Well, thank you everybody for being here. Welcome. This is the wrap up of our 15th anniversary celebration for the Entrepreneurship Center and Focus Suites. I'm Brooke Lenhoff. I'm the assistant director here, and it is my pleasure to be with the OG team. Every single person on this panel here has played a very important role in getting us to where we are today, 15 years later. So I asked the panel, I wanted to leave it really open-ended so that they could share their memories or lessons learned with us. So I said, I want you to introduce yourself, tell us about what your role has been at the Focus Suites, and then a favorite memory, lessons learned, wise words for us, awesome things about working with me.
That's where we got stuck.
That'll take the whole hour.
That's the better response. I didn't come up with that thought.
So I'm going to take a seat and I'm going to turn it over we'll start with Kat.
Okay. Welcome everybody. I'm Kat Leverett, and I was formerly the administrative assistant here at the Entrepreneurship Center. I started in 2010, and then when COVID came, then I got a new grandbaby at the same time, and was quickly persuaded that I needed to be a full-time grandmother. So I'm still doing grandmother part-time, but I'm also the entrepreneur in residence here with my own business called Clever Connections. And I do marketing and promotion consulting and entrepreneur cheerleading. So I have been called a coach before. Brooke and I discovered that coaching isn't always the easiest, because one of the things that coaches do is disrupt. And when you see entrepreneurs tripping their merry way into something that might not be so good, stopping them and disrupting them isn't always pleasant. But it helps you to make tight relationships. And the work that I've done here, I hope has had an impact on people that I've been around, but primarily I know the impact that everyone has made on me. And when I first started, I was finishing up being at SEC as a student. And I started college at age 55. I moved from Arkansas to go to college with my daughter and son-in-law. And in 5 years, we got 3 degrees. And we were bouncing 3 grandkids around and getting them to various schools. And I was working part-time at Student Senate. I got to be the president of the student body at SEC. Linda was one of my teachers, Beth was one of my teachers, Scott was one of my teachers. And so when I moved up here, actually, I knew that I wanted to be part of the Entrepreneurship Center. I interviewed with Tim.
No, it started long before that. She walked into my office, she just moved here from Arkansas, and she says, I'm going to work here one day. Literally said that. And I was like, okay, and who are you? And
don't hire.
And then 3 years, and I have no budget.
3 years later.
3 years later, she walked in with an application, and I said, you're hired.
This was the exciting part for me. He said, I've always wanted to have someone to do marketing for the center. We don't have any money for it, but it's something that I really want to happen. And so in my mind, all through the 3 years of school, then my goal was to get finished with school, come here and do marketing for the Entrepreneurship Center. Administrative assistant was the door I walked through to do marketing, but it was an opportunity that I had intended to find. And the day that I signed my papers to graduate, the job for this opportunity was on the list at school. And so I quickly called, and Linda was probably my greatest cheerleader to say, you might want to give this girl a chance. And in my background, I was a marketing director for a small chain of franchise pharmacies. So when I came to school, I had been working within the franchise system, and my question was, can what I've learned in the franchise system apply to many businesses? And I had been given the book, The E-Myth, by the franchise president, and when I found out that The E-Myth was the book that we used here, then that was just another confirmation to me that I was in the right place. So now, all these years later, probably as I look back, the most exciting thing is to obviously see people that have just a vision, and then they come in with their vision, and through the alchemy of community and education and inspiration, then we turn something from nothing but just the raw materials of an idea and somebody's desire to work their butts off. I've actually seen entrepreneurs work until they were ill and dying. And so my goal with Clever Connections is to bring balance and encourage balance and help people to remember that it's not always in your head, the solutions that you need, the relationships that you make along the way, the commitment and the heart that people have that are entrepreneurs is my continual inspiration. I believe that creativity is really the soul of entrepreneurship. And so as my creative donation for the 15th celebration, then my granddaughter and I actually did this art piece. I wrote an essay when I was a student and talked about how joyful it made me to help my daughter go to school by putting the grandkids to bed for her. Well, those same grandkids now, one works at True North, and one of them is at Wesleyan College, and she's the reason that that face looks more like a real face than something weird, because I could not do it. But anyway, that's Kat in a nutshell, and it's been my great privilege to be here and to see what happens next.
My name is Tim Matan. I'm the district director for SBA Nebraska now. You are all here today because I raised my hand in a staff meeting. So there was a staff meeting that was asked. I just got off probation as an instructor, and I was told I needed to be more interactive with the faculty and do more things for the business program. And so we had a staff meeting, we had a vision meeting that week, and they said, does anybody know anything about entrepreneurship or would like to do some entrepreneurship research? I raised my hand. I was the only one. I shouldn't say that. Kathy Thornton raised her hand, but she was an adjunct at the time, so they didn't want her working on it, but she was the only one that could help me. So Kathy Thornton turned out that she was an accounting instructor. She ended up running the Entrepreneurship Center at the university, and now she's retired and living in Indianapolis. Kind of retired, anyway. So, my biggest thing was, there's a lot, way too many stories to tell over the years, but to watch the evolution and everything go from, the very first day I started working here, there was nothing up here. There was a hole in the wall, in the floor over here, or that went upstairs right here, where this is, right here. So that used to be a spiral staircase upstairs. These were filing systems back here where these 2 rooms are. When you walk downstairs, there was ductwork down on the floor. There were very few lights that actually worked in this building at all. And the only building, or the only room that was operational was my office, technically. And even the bathroom wasn't total at that moment. So they bought the building, it was technologically advanced, which it kind of wasn't. And they had to completely rebuild the whole building. So
The 70s,
my thing, even though I was called Dream Smasher, Kid Killer, it was reality for many years, only because people would catch me at a time when I was walking out of my office. You all need to make appointments. That's make an appointment. That's all you gotta do. Make an appointment. I'll just say, I need 10 minutes of your time. Great, I will mark it down. Don't catch me when I'm on my way to a meeting or when I have to go teach, because you'll get an answer and not an answer that you probably want. Anyway, but the thing is that Brooke and I talked about it all the time. I said I wanted the word focus written on every single wall in this building, because that was the one thing that I always had to remind people. Focus. You've got too much going on. We had somebody that was in that office right over there. And all of a sudden, I had to stop her from actually going out and making sales. Why? Because she wasn't completing the sale. She's, in her mind, it was sale after sale after sale. No, you got to do the work. Focus, people, focus. Now it's why it's called focus.
We can't stop staying focused.
You can't stop.
That's right.
Anymore. So anyway, so there's a lot, like I said, that I am proud of. There's a lot of hard work that went into this, and this community is nothing but better because of what we have done here. And it's a we, very much a we. So, but I raise my hand.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You are the original director.
I was the original director. I even wrote my own job description. So, we went to Springfield Technical Community College in Springfield, Massachusetts. I saw what they had done, and I'm like, oh my God, this is what we need. This is so what we need. And I came back and I wrote that, and then nobody understood it. But the board did. I had a couple people on the board did, and we had a vice president at the time that didn't quite get it until he went there. When he went there, then he saw what they were doing, and I'm like, this is what we need. But we needed better education than they had, and we did. We had better education. So the education that we wrote, is used all across this state, and still is to this day. The introduction to entrepreneurship class is still being used. So it started off, we had to position it as education first, and then I learned, does anybody know who Phil Heckman is? He was he was at Doane. He used to be the president at Doane and the Heckman Center there and everything. He was I did a play with him at the Lincoln Community Playhouse, and he always said, when he was the president of the board, he goes, they call it the Lincoln Community Playhouse. Community is in the middle of everything we do. I stole that. Southeast Community College, and that's what I had to position to the board. Southeast Community College. So community is in the middle of everything that we do. And when they started asking about who was going to be here, I said, well, the community, our students are a community. We have a network of community of entrepreneurs that need help. The pushback was, NBDC was already existed at that moment, and they did everything. And if you're not the university, well, you can't really exist. Now, can you?
Oh, yes, we can.
Oh, yes, we can. And you can play well together. So my job was to prove that these services did not already exist in this state, not in Lincoln, in this state. So I spoke to the board several times. I spoke to senators here. I spoke to congressional representatives, everything, just to get to the point where this could be accepted. I remember the day when an organization, prominent organization here in Lincoln, came in. They said, we want to tour. At my, we don't, there's nothing to tour yet. You know, and
Here's our ductwork.
and it was exactly what it was. And they came in anyway, and I explained what we were doing and how we were positioning ourselves, and talked about the incubator. And he said, he goes, well, that's already existed in the city and it doesn't work. I go, well, this one will. It's based around education. Well, the other ones say they were too, and they didn't work. So, good luck. And I said, thank you. I appreciate that. I said, he goes, well, we'll just see if you survive. Don't challenge me. Don't. So, when we succeeded and we got more money, I called this person back up and I got zero response. Zero. So, we had to prove everything in this town and in this area to what we had intended to do. And we did it. But we had a president that bought into it, got it. We had a board that bought into it, got it. And we had Jim Krieger from Gallup, so, who helped fund it. When I say help fund it, I'm talking $150,000. That's it. That was our budget for 3 years. 3 years. When Kat said we didn't have any money, we didn't have any money. It did not get put in the budget. So.
What year was that?
Started in 2004. I was hired in 2006, 2007.
2006, the
Six.
center opened.
In March of 2006.
And then we had our first tenant in January of 2007
Right.
in the incubator.
Yeah. So yeah. So it's come a long way. And now this is known for what it is. And like I said, if it wasn't for these people sitting here and that one there, so I wouldn't be here. So.
Sustainer.
That's right. She's also the best man at my wedding. So.
Beth,
Mhm.
passing the torch.
Yeah.
All right. I'm Linda Hartman. I am the program chair co-chair, along with Beth, for the business program here in Lincoln. And I came on board, oh gosh, I don't know what year it was. Doesn't matter.
No, you were an adjunct for me.
I was an adjunct for a few years. I started at SCC 22 years ago on my youngest son's first birthday. And I was an adjunct, and I'd been an adjunct, and I had applied for a full-time position, and I didn't get it, and I was devastated, and Tim took pity on me. He
I
said,
called him up and I said, what the hell were you doing? Why
He
didn't you
said,
hire her?
"What?"
I'm going to. Yeah.
So he said, I can create a job for you, I think $10, $12 an hour maybe, as an education specialist and recruiter, and you can have business cards and everything. And I'm like, sold. So I started here just kind of part-time doing business coaching and creating curriculum for continuing ed. We actually did all of our 6 entrepreneurship courses in a continuing ed version that we were promoting throughout the 15 county area. So that was kind of my first task.
Business Development Academy.
Yes, the Business BDA, Business Development Academy. And we did all kinds of fun things. We did the Wise Women Institute, and we did all kinds of fun education. And we recruited like crazy, getting businesses into the incubator. So that was kind of our big push, was to fill the space, and we filled the space.
Fill the space.
So we worked a lot with the Entrepreneurship Focus program that was up on 4th floor at the time. And we worked just with everybody in the community. We went to all kinds of things and conferences and MBIA and NC and NACI, and we had just a lot of great camaraderie going on in the community. I teach the Entrepreneurship Feasibility Study class that originally started as our Opportunity Analysis class. And statewide, we changed that course because we were finding that about 95% of our students in our courses already knew what kind of business they wanted to start. So instead of the attack of, what opportunities are out there, we kind of flipped to that course to, let's do a feasibility study on that business, which most businesses don't do. And with the Clifton Strengths Finder, learner is my number one strength, and that course feeds my strength every year when I teach that course. I am learning about every kind of possible business industry there is. I mean, we have students in various programs, a lot of early childhood, culinary, auto body, welding, biofuels, tattoo parlors, hair salons, you name it. We get to, learn about it in that class, and it's a lot of fun.
And a lot of things that are not legal in this
Right,
state.
right.
Yes, that's true.
Some things that I have to help with research on from home that we
Because
can't
you can't do it in the
research
school.
here, so, yeah, I'm like, I'm not looking that up on my work computer. But I'll help those students.
When you get a call from a president because there's a student in your class that's doing something that may or may not be legal, it's like, oh, it's not legal in this state, but they're not going to live here, and it's not illegal technically, and we're not promoting it.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah, we've had a lot of interesting students over the years.
It's just fun to see people.
Creativity.
Probably,
Yeah.
yes, one of my biggest takeaways, Steve Molly, who was right here, there. Steve went to a conference once, and he said that at the conference, he learned that anytime you go to a conference and you come back with all this huge list of things that you want to accomplish, he said, just remember one thing from that conference and take it away. So my big one thing that I've quoted more than anything else I've ever learned at a conference is that maximum idea generation and productivity and creativity for entrepreneurs comes at about 1.5 adult beverages. So I've quoted that more than just about anything I've ever learned at a conference. It's really stuck with me. So that's the entrepreneurs, and we have had a lot of fun over the years, and I'm still served with the NetForce, Nebraska Entrepreneurship, I can't even say it, Task Force Curriculum Committee, and we review now 5 of our courses. We started with 6, but all 5 of our entrepreneurship courses, and they're due up for review every 3 years. And so that's coming up in January. And we review all of those, make sure that everything we're teaching is still relevant and that we are keeping current with what's going on. And so that's been a lot of fun too. So that's me in a nutshell.
Thank you, Linda. I'm Steve Boers. I had the privilege of serving as the director of the center here for 7 years, so about half of its life, roughly. And I'm retired now and loving that, but not really retired, doing a lot of volunteer work and active on several boards here in Lincoln. And some of my fondest memories, first of all, I want to tip my hat to Tim and Brooke and Kat. When you work in a big organization like SEC, it takes a tremendous amount of energy and force of will to get a new program up and running. So I can't imagine what they had to go through to get this launched. So I tip my hat to those early efforts because I know how hard it is to compete with resources with other programs in the college that want money too. So they did a great job. I think while I was here, the smartest thing I ever did was let Kat and Brooke run with some of their ideas because they were constantly sitting me down. They always made sure I was sitting first and to bounce ideas off me and say, here's what we thought of. And I always knew I needed to sit down then. But I was smart enough to get out of the way and let them run with them. They did all the rebranding. It looks terrific around here. I love all the pictures you put on the wall for this anniversary celebration. And they were great to work with. A lot of passion and a real heart for entrepreneurs. So I tip my hat to them. The teaching part, when I got to Southeast, I had never been, I knew nothing about community colleges, nothing. And now I'm a huge fan of community colleges, the role they play in the community and the state. Big fan. I think because of community colleges, I think you really need to stop and evaluate whether you need a 4-year degree anymore. I think the programs that SEC and other community colleges offer are just incredibly valuable. The courses through Amy's programs where you can pick up skills like QuickBooks, that sort of thing. Nobody else is doing that, so I'm just a big fan of community colleges. And I'm a big fan of this program. I think it continues to serve a role that not enough people know about in Lincoln. First of all, despite our efforts, there's still a lot of people in Lincoln that don't know about the SEC focus suites. But that's a shame, because I'm real proud of some of the graduates of this program that have moved on and are running businesses now that employ dozens of people. I think my biggest source of joy while I was here was attending open houses for businesses that started here and then moved out and were up and running. And I remember going to your open house and Bridge to Better Living. I got to be there for their ribbon cutting. Piyush. I mean, there's just dozens of stories like that of people that started here and now literally employ dozens of people or are franchising and selling franchises of their business. So this is a gem, and I'm glad to see it still running under Amy's capable guidance, and Brooke and Kat too. And it's just been a real privilege for me to be involved with it the short time I was. And the teaching part, I'd never taught a class before, and with the help of these two, and 3 people actually, they were wonderful in help me survive those first few semesters. Didn't know what I was doing, but with their help, that's been real gratifying too. And to hear from former students is a real treat. So
Can I just say something
Yes.
about that? I had never heard of focus suites. I didn't know anything about it. And I was taking a class with Steve, and he's the one that suggested that I come here, so I'm grateful for that.
Well, good. Glad to hear that. And I still do some speaking and scored as a one-day workshop for prospective entrepreneurs, and I'm a speaker at that every quarter when they do that. And I still push this program very heavily and guide people here. So, Amy, thank you for your role in keeping us up and running and open, and thank you for all the people that have occupied suites here too. You've done us proud, that's for sure. So, with that, I'll turn it over.
Okay. Beth Diner, co-program chair with Linda. I've been on Milford campus, Lincoln campus, currently in Lincoln. And I got involved with the Entrepreneurship Center when I was on the Milford campus. Tim and I had worked together with other classes because we both were teaching marketing, so him and I worked together. So when it came time, our dean wasn't going to allow just one campus to be in charge of this activity, and she wanted people on all campuses to be involved. And so I did volunteer because Tim and I got along quite well. And I had taught marketing, and so I became involved and was really involved when we started doing the traveling and the research for looking at incubators and how they were set up, and going to all these different cities to see the types of courses that they had, how they were developed, how the incubators were set up. We went to Fort Collins, to Colorado University. It wasn't Fort Collins, or was it Boulder?
No, it's Fort
Collins. And Colorado State. And looked how they did it on their different scale when we were in Springfield, Massachusetts. We'd even talked to, when I believe it was Kearney, when they were trying to do incubators, a lot of communities that were trying to do incubators, and seeing how they really worked. And so it was interesting to be on really the very beginnings of it. I came on in about 2004 when we started to travel for the research. I got involved with the Entrepreneurship Consortium, getting grants for the program, so worked on that particular piece of it. And then I was developed the Marketing for Entrepreneurship course when it was first very, very developed. I was on that, wrote the curriculum for that, and then when it went to the the team as a whole, then it's been modified over the years, as everything does. But I was involved with it for a really long time, and it was always fun to be because I teach principles of marketing, but then marketing for the entrepreneur, and really looking at some of the different pieces and how they can apply them when they actually have a business in mind. So it's really fun to be part of that. And over the years, I haven't been as involved with the Entrepreneurship Center, but we used to have to teach the classes here on this campus. And I was still teaching in Milford and would teach marketing for the entrepreneurship here. So I would be in Milford and then drive to this campus to teach here, and then sometimes have to drive back to Milford to teach my classes back out there. So I was very heavily invested in it. I really believed in what we did. And it was also the team that we had. We had a really great team, and that was really before we had the full set of people involved with it, that it was just those of us, it was just like on shoestrings that we were making this work. And luckily at the time, we had very good backing from our CFO and the president at the time, that they believed in what we did. They maybe didn't understand what it was, but they let us do it. And that becomes so important, to have leadership that will back you on this, because so many people don't understand this particular piece of the educational process. So you have to have them back you in that. And that was essential to get it up and running. I was also involved when LPS was starting their entrepreneurship focus program that was up on top floor. And Tim and I would go to their meetings and try and work with them. So try and work together as a team, and not that it's one against the other, because they felt like that should be all of theirs if they're focused here. Whereas we were like, no, we can work together in a community. And that's kind of what we try and always promote, is the community aspect, that it's not just LPS against SCC or SCC against LPS. How can we work together? And so that was, and then Jim Krieger was really, with Gallup, was so involved with that process. And so it was nice to have all of these people on that team to put that together. So even though it wasn't, still is not in its same format, it was still nice to be involved in the groundwork of getting some of this stuff put in place and watching it grow over time. So I still believe in what we do here, and it's great to see so many people that actively have been involved in it. And I also, when Steve was here, I had him come talk to many classes that I had, and one was even my introduction to entrepreneurship, and I had several students in there that really wanted to start a business, and I'm like, oh, Steve, come over, because they're not getting it, so please come over and talk to them. And I'd hand out the name, and it's nice having those resources for people around.
And I'm Scott Bailey. I guess I'm primarily on the education side of this, and I was starting to think, when they start mentioning dates and everything like that, it was actually fall of '02. Tim and I were hired at the exact same time at SCC, and I really didn't have an education background coming in, but I don't know if you remember our job description. Every single business course was on our job description, except for accounting and law, because you needed specialized degrees for that. And it was a nightmare teaching all those. And then I remember when he kind of pulled out of it and went.
You were working on your master's.
Yeah, well, I was working on my master's then too, so it was even more of a nightmare. But when you kind of dedicated your time to the entrepreneur side of things, and you got the curriculum up here, I remember when you came to me and said, would you like to take over the intro class? And I said, sure, because I usually say sure before doing any homework. But that was fall of '06. And so it was around the time you totally became director here and everything. And so I guess me coming into it, I was thinking, I don't know if this is a good analogy, kind of like Sammy Hagar going into Van Halen or something. But it was really, it was fun for me, because it was a totally different way of teaching, as far as the go through a few chapters, take a test, few chapters, take a test. That just doesn't cut it for trying to teach in the business world. And so one of the things that I started that very first quarter that we were on quarter systems, I created my own curriculum, basically, on there, and I still use it today. I created kind of, I call it a business simulation, even though it's technically, well, I guess it does kind of lead them through it, but I remember back then it was about 11 pages long and things, and every single time I teach it, I learn something new, I put something new, or I pull something out that's happening in contemporary culture, you know, and put that in, and it's about 120 pages now.
Oh, my.
That I give my students, and yes, I've tried to publish it, but I'm used to rejection.
Do they still open a pizza shop?
They still,
I was in
it's
your
called
class
pizzeria, they
opened
in
a
fact,
pizza
they just
shop.
got done with a big component of it just this morning and everything like that, but it's been a lot of fun to teach these students. I can't really call them kids because I've had people at least 20, 30 years older than me, well, not at this point in my life. But, you know, and I learn from them about what they're doing and things like that. But we've had people who have been, there's one guy who was on the national show for, they forge knives
Oh,
and
yeah.
blades
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff like
Oh,
that.
yeah, Forged in Steel.
Yeah,
Which
but
fire?
it's just amazing, just the variety that we see across the board. And of course, you know, there's the ones that want to do the tattoo, want to do the marijuana stuff and
Or the Disney World, Disney World, Disney World on I-80.
Yeah,
We just
yeah.
talked about that
I
yesterday.
remember
wouldn't
her
take
as
any money,
well
would it?
and things, but what I've really kind of noticed from is the types of businesses that I don't see as much these days. I used to see a lot of photography businesses.
Yes.
Back when I first took over, and
Yes.
I don't see those these days, and it's gotta be because we all carry a camera in our pocket, you know, and all that kind of stuff, but it's been a lot of fun. I have to admit, I look forward to teaching the class every single semester and just the people that you get to know and that kind of stuff, so my story is short and sweet.
Anybody have questions or comments for the panel?
Yeah, Brooke, what's your biggest
Okay, what's your
takeaway?
backstory?
Yeah,
My
let's-
backstory, it happened totally by accident. I was about to start my last year of nursing at Creighton. And about 2 weeks before school was about to start, I decided I wasn't going to be a nurse. And so I had to have something to tell my parents because they had been paying for a lot of my education and had spent a lot of money and I was about to just flush it down the toilet. So I got online and I saw that I could apply at Southeast that day and I picked the business department. I don't know why. I had never had any interest in business. So I started there. I got a job in continuing education working for Amy Chesley. And I worked there for about 1.5 years. And during that time, the college was remodeling this side of the building for the Entrepreneurship Center. And Tim would come over and talk because I assume because he was lonely over here with the duck work. And we would chat and at some point I remember asking him if there were going to be any positions available over here because I was just part-time and continuing ed and I really wanted to be full-time with the college at that point. And he said, I'll let you know. And then told me one day that there was going to be a full-time opportunity. It was for an admin assistant, same thing. I walked in through the admin assistant door, as many of us do. And so I applied for it. Tim hired me. I had no idea. I mean, you had no business hiring me. I had to.
But no, you weren't in the interviews.
Yes, I did.
Got it.
I had to practice how to say entrepreneur. I mean, I had no entrepreneurial skills at the time. But I just felt a pull to work here and Tim hired me. And my first day on the job, he said, okay, forget about everything that was in your job description. That's not what I need help with. And I was like, good. So really wasn't what I wanted to do. So this is going to be great. And Yeah, from,
I needed an office manager, I did not need a secretary.
yeah.
But she was still, she still would correct everything that I would send.
Yeah.
Well, do not have a typo
No.
around me, bad grammar. I mean,
One of the funniest things was when I hired Brooke, it's like, I hired her, and the week she started, I went to a conference in Seattle. So she was here by herself, and then there was,
luckily Scott was here with me.
and there was
It was a bomb
there's a
threat.
bomb threat.
Oh.
What do I do? Leave? So,
Scott had a class here, and I'm like, Scott, I don't know, Tim says we should leave.
yeah.
And we left.
Yeah. And, but not too long after that, we were having an open house, and I asked her to put together stuff for the open house, everything, and she'd been keeping them in an envelope. It happened to be an intercampus envelope.
I forgot about that.
So she walked into my office. I don't know how long she's been stewing over this. She walks into my office. She goes, "The envelope is gone." Well, what happened was they saw it was an inter-office envelope, and Rick picked it up. It ended up in Milford. We didn't get it until like 3 days after open house. So she had to, and I busted out laughing. I thought it was hilarious. She was not happy. She was almost in tears. But that was the beginning of our relationship. And then she invited one of the instructors from the admin assistant program to come over and talk to her, since she was a graduate and had a job and everything. And basically she said, she goes, "Yeah, I don't do anything I learned in class."
No, it was just all on the job training.
Yeah, well,
And you're like,
for
oh,
both.
do you want to coach? And I'm like, yeah.
I'm like,
if
I need
somebody-
help.
Yeah, if somebody needs business advice from me, I'm 25, I don't have a business, but yep, I'll be a coach.
You should have come to intro to business classes.
I should have
That would have been good.
I probably should have, yeah.
You
One
and
thing-
Aaron.
Yeah.
One thing Brooke is modest about, though, is that if this center has been here 15 years, if you added Tim's years and my years and Amy's years, it doesn't add up to 15, because after Tim left, it took the college quite a while to fill the position. After I left, it took quite a while to fill the position, and Brooke managed the center and kept things rolling during those two
During that
interim periods, so she did a wonderful job.
Thank you.
One of my great joys has been working with Brooke, and we have found so many books, over the years that have become part of our culture. And remember how excited we were when we found All In Startup. Well,
And met Diana.
yes, and then
Multiple times.
Brooke and I read a book called Rocket
Not all
Fuel.
of
And then we realized after we read the book that was describing our work style together. And that was pretty exciting to realize that we were doing something so good that somebody else had written a book about it. So I encourage you guys to read Rocket Fuel because it talks about the joint effort that it takes. I'm an intuitive, even though I was hired as an administrative assistant. My spreadsheets and my documentation were labors of love, and Brooke, thank goodness, was gentle, correcting me behind the scenes.
Where's Anita?
Yeah, she should be here.
Yeah.
But we learned how to bounce ideas off of each other, and we learned how to really stimulate excitement when things weren't changing and people weren't giving us money. They weren't saying, "Oh, here, have this." And we would literally walk around the building and look at the blank walls and say, what could we do? What could we do here with this and this? And the school did a rebranding, and then after the school did the rebranding, we used that tool and rebranded up here. And working with Brooke and having our rocket fuel moments, that's something that really changed us forever. And I would encourage all of you to think about whether or not you might be the dreamer or you might be the facilitator And you need both, because as you were speaking earlier, wearing the many hats of the entrepreneur, switching those hats out day by day, learning the different roles. If you can find somebody that can help stimulate you with ideas and work in your strengths, that was another thing that we've stayed true to these basic foundational concepts that we know work. The E-Myth, the creating the systems, and knowing that, like Linda said, you can have ideas until the cows come home. And it seems like the longer the night gets, the more ideas that you can have. And people used to call me and want to ask me, who will buy my idea? I've got this great idea. Who's going to buy it? Do you have somebody there at your facility that will buy your idea? And at first, you're just trying to be very kind, and then after a while, you're like, dude, ideas are born every night, closer to midnight or 1 o'clock. But when you wake up,
3.5 drinks.
yeah, yeah,
We get calls in the middle of the night at the SBA,
yeah,
and people say, I have an idea, and I want to, and most of them are incoherent at that point. But the one thing that I have learned over the years, and I know we're getting close to time here, the one thing I've learned over the years, and one of the reasons why we have all stayed connected, is because we have a passion for what we do.
Yes.
Okay, that's one thing. So the other thing is that we never stopped learning. We always continued to grow. So, and this isn't just for us. This is what entrepreneurs need to do too. The other thing we do is we built a network of friends and colleagues, not just in this community, but all over this country. And I still have people that I connect with in England when we did a project with them. So it's just one of those things where there are a lot of people. I talked to a class earlier this week, and they're like, well, I just don't want anybody to steal my idea. I'm sorry, your idea is not brand new. How you do it
that's it.
might be. But the other thing is that you want to know the people who are doing what you do. They are the ones that are going to give you the inspiration, the support, and everything necessary. When the pandemic hit, I was lucky. I was not in the SBA when it hit. And I say that the SBA did a lot of work during that time with the Paycheck Protection Program and the EIDL loans and everything. And there are a lot of people who are still around because of that. There are a lot of people who are not. And unfortunately, but the thing is that it was the connections that had already been made that helped those that needed the help succeed. Knowing who your resources are, knowing who your competitors are, because those are the people you're going to go to when you need help. So your competitor is not your enemy. You want them to be your friend. So your competitor is, like your friend, your enemy is economics, your enemy is inflation, your enemy is supply chain, if you want to look at it that way. Those are, I don't like the word enemy, they're challenges. They're just challenges. And
External threats.
And if you figure out how to maneuver all of that, people get stuck in their ways. Good Lord. I have a little corgi, he's 3 years old. We have to do the exact same thing every night, the exact same way, before he can go to bed. Oh, for Pete's sake. God forbid we don't get up to go to bed at 9:30 at night. But you create a
system.
But the thing is that, if you get stuck in your own way, that's what you're in. You're in your own way. So the network of people that you create will help you get out of these systems, these things that are, problematic. So this group right here, it's like I haven't been with the Entrepreneurship Center since 2013. So, but I know
That's wild.
Been almost 10 years. So I had an opportunity to go work for the SBDC in Los Angeles, and I ran that for 3 years. When that was done, I came back as economic instructor, waiting and trying to get on with the SBA, and I finally was able to get on with the SBA. So, and now I run the SBA for Nebraska, and that makes me happy. So, but the thing is that this is still, I always liked teaching. Teaching was fine. I never hated coming to work when I was running the Entrepreneurship Center. There were days that were not fun, don't get me wrong. But I got to talk with everybody. And I got to the point where it's like people would come in, that you got an appointment today, it's a restaurant. I go, God, another restaurant. But I would sit and I'd listen because it was different. No judgment. It's except for the lady that wanted to do the fresh seafood restaurant in downtown Lincoln. There was judgment there on that one. That's honest. There was a lady who wanted to do a fresh seafood restaurant, store, not restaurant, store in downtown Lincoln. I'm like, how long have you lived in Lincoln? All my life. Oh man, do you know how far away we are from an ocean? And to consider it fresh, it's not. I go, you're fresh frozen. We can do. Oh no, I don't want fresh frozen. I want fresh seafood. Whew, Lordy. So you don't say no to that. Although the first thing is like, are you a crazy woman?
How do you think this through?
That's like, you usually start putting up challenges and then they back out of it and they go away. But the fact is that the good entrepreneurs figure out how to go around the challenges, how to conquer them, how to say, oh, that wasn't so bad, and then go on. And that's why this place exists up here, is to help with the challenges. So it's just one of those things where this space right here, for whatever it started out to be and for whatever it will be, is nothing but a place that is safe and secure and for businesses to become who they are intended to be. So.
I have a question for the group, if I may.
Sure.
Please.
Always.
Yeah.
We have a great collective of wisdom sitting here and experience. If you're looking ahead 5 or 10 years from now and giving, I know we all can't predict that, our culture, what would you like to see happen, new and exciting or different, or build on what you have to grow and focus suites in the entrepreneurs?
Let's tackle that one.
Well,
I don't know if we can say what we really want to say.
The exciting thing to know, and to hear Amy say Tuesday night, that she's excited to focus on innovation.
Yeah.
And, you know, I thought about this last night, about what are the new things that entrepreneurs need. Well, the new ideas, that's simmering all across the city. But what people forget is the foundation. And so I don't know that we're ever going to see a day where it's more exciting to learn how to build your accounting system than it is to open up a new tattoo shop. So even though that seems like a redundant thing, and John, this is what you do too, is pull people back. Okay, it's great to have a new tattoo place in town, but if you're gonna last 1 year, if you're gonna last 3 years, if you're gonna last 5 years, then you're gonna have to know what your values are, who your competition is, what sets you apart, how do you go from greeting your customer, keeping your customer, getting your customer to come back, getting your customer to tell somebody else about it, letting them bring in another customer. And that sounds like the same old, same old. But guess what? Every new cake that you ever see that's got the fanciest frosting in town, same ingredients.
well, and that's the thing.
I just want
Go
to,
ahead.
one of the things that if we're looking 5 or 10 years down the road, what I would like to see happen, having been here from the beginning and fighting hard to get funding and the continuation of this program, it would be great because we have great people here. And obviously there's been great things that have happened, and it would be fabulous to have continued support
Yes.
within our system and the community, and for the higher powers that be to really see the value of what is happening here. And we've had it before where we had people that truly believed in what we were doing and fully supported every aspect of what we had. And I would love to see us go back to a full understanding of why funding for this center is important. And no, we might not be dollar per dollar generating like, oh, we see, yep, we made $10,000 in that area this year. But okay, maybe we're not bringing in a full value, but what are we doing in the community that's adding value into the community that really does spread it, of growing and building jobs? That's what I wish 5, 10 years down the road, that we could grow for those people to see that there is value in what we're doing here.
Yeah.
And the 15 county area.
Just a quick follow-up.
Our service
The reason why I
area.
asked that question, I was sitting here, I believe in foundations.
Mhm.
Is there any way that you all could create a support, call it focused foundation, or whatever you want, where the people who graduated from here, the people who have been here, the people in the community that are hiring, that could build a foundation primarily as the grantee, the entrepreneurial center for it? Now, I don't know, that probably gets tied into state dollars.
No, it's ties in with the construct of the
It
college.
would be nice. It would be nice in the next 5 to 10 years.
Stay tuned in the very near coming week or two. You are going to be hearing from Amy about how how everybody can participate in that if they would like to.
They would like to support.
There-
I have a follow-up for what you were just saying. So how can small business owners be a part of what you were just speaking of? Because it does take people that are truly passionate here locally to, make the community understand. But what would be your advice that you could give to a small business owner of how they could become more influential with what your guys' purpose is?
I'm going to defer to our representative on our SCC board,
Got it? Refer to anyone.
to Linda, because she has the ears of a lot of people, and there's probably more better politically correct ways to doing it than what I would say.
Perfect.
So she's going to have a better, like, what would be, is it letters? Is it phone calls? Is it,
Exactly.
this is what we have done? And I think Linda would have a better,
Yeah. And on, the board has, obviously, our SEC Board of Governors represents all 15 counties within the SEC 15 county geographic area. So just getting those folks to know what's going on, and they are such great ambassadors and advocates for what's going on.
How would you suggest them to become better ambassadors?
Getting them here, and
Okay,
yes,
okay.
here, and even if we can try to get on the board agenda to have Amy give an update. It's been quite a while. Amy Chessie's gone, but it's been quite a while since the Entrepreneurship Center has presented to the Board of Governors. It's been several years since
I get it.
trying to
Steve
even
did-
think.
It
was
took
the
me
last
years
one.
to get on the agenda
So,
of
yeah,
the board.
yeah.
I used to do it
So,
every year.
Yeah.
Just giving updates. I try to put in a plug every once in a while as a faculty representative for the board.
but
um,
getting your faces in front of them
Yes.
through.
Yep, and we have actually 4 new board members coming on in January. So just getting those folks in tune right away, that probably could be part of the board orientation, new board member orientation. So just, getting the word out that way too is helpful.
The other way is to make sure that students that there are people out there that understand that they're kind of scared about entrepreneurship. They don't know if they're ready to take that leap or whatever. That we can educate you about entrepreneurship. We can't educate you to be an entrepreneur, but we can give you all the tools necessary. And honestly, it doesn't cost that much to go to school at SEC. And you really could take just Scott's class. There are no prerequisites for it at all.
And mine.
And yours. There aren't, and you could do, if you have an idea, take a feasibility study class. If you don't know anything about it, take Scott's class, take the intro class. You know, get more of the community involved in what is happening here. We had a substantial buzz that happened about what was going on here for many, many years. So, the administrations change, just like they do everywhere. It's not always their focus. So getting it in front of them again. This is where you as a community of business owners, I mean, the board are, you know, they're public people.
Elected by you.
Elected by you. Email them.
Yep.
Tell them what you want.
They're all on the Southeast.edu
Yeah.
governance
It
webpage.
just
So
takes email.
all their emails
That's
are right
all it
on there
takes.
too, so, yes, Joe.
Well, and I think as entrepreneurs, I love the world of entrepreneur because there's so much creative germs going on that it's just very empowering for me. But I meet people all the time that I try and plug them into this because, okay, if you're a new entrepreneur, you know, the sources that you guys have are so amazing. And I keep saying this is a free quality. It's
Yes,
not going
yes.
to cost you anything to
Right.
plug in here. And I think huge, you know, for us, word of mouth, plugging people into here also helps you. Like, have you heard of thus? Because it doesn't cost you anything to sit here, listen to the wisdom, because you've got some amazing speakers.
Just watching the videos, the
Yes.
YouTube channel videos, I mean, if I missed a speaker, I go watch those videos and I share them with my students and have them watch. I'm like, you need to watch, that industry was represented in this video. You've got to watch this video. I've sent those videos, just individual links to a lot of students. So, and I used to judge a lot of business plan competitions. We did that a lot in the early years. And I would always say, bet on the jockey, not the horse. It doesn't matter really what their product is. If they're passionate about it, they're going to make it go come hell or high water.
Except
So,
Huddle.
Yeah, well,
Except Huddle.
except Huddle, yeah, they didn't do very well after their business auction.
I was
He was one of their first.
I was one of their first judges.
One of
I was
their
their
first
first judges. So, and I pushed the other judging. They didn't want it because their business plan didn't look right.
It's like, oh, really, they'll be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now they have a building in downtown Lincoln.
Yes.
Yeah,
And I like to take credit for it.
might as well.
Tim has significance in his top five.
So, but no, now, yeah. But the thing is working for the SBA now, I also work for an organization that has free services. One of the reasons that I am in this position now is that I have the ability to help connect a lot of the federal agencies and the things that we do with the community colleges. It is because of what they do. I know what they do. We actually have, you know, somebody who works with the federal government sitting in the audience here. And pretty much anybody that works in our organizations and do the things that we do, these are free services as well. So there are so many resources that are available to everybody. And people say, it's like, well, I don't know where to go. Well, then you're not looking. I want to be told, well, sorry, bullshit. Do your own damn research. You need to figure out who is doing what. And I can tell you right now, I mean, there was a speaker here not too long ago, Scott from SourceLink, and there wasn't anybody here for that. And this room should have been full for that. Because if you don't know anything about SourceLink, and I have he's not my employee, he's not funded by me, nothing like that. But if you don't know anything about SourceLink, because all of these organizations are on SourceLink. So you should look at that.
We also talked about SourceLink on our Focus Suites Live this
Yes.
week on Tuesday.
Yes. So there's a lot, and there's a lot out there for people and a lot for you to do, but just do you. My God,
Yeah.
just go be the best.
Be a good jockey.
And
So-
one final question for everybody. We asked this of everybody, and we've got Small Business Saturday coming up next weekend. So what is your favorite local restaurant or favorite place that we should all shop at on Small Business Saturday.
Oh, Lord.
La Quartier.
Yes.
It's a great bakery right in Meridian Plaza on 70th and O.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I've known John and Seth since he opened, that I got involved.
I can't believe how that place has grown, but the quality of their food, the service, it's really, to me, it's so special that we have these places in Lincoln.
If you like Middle Eastern Indian food, Fatouche is wonderful. They're on North 27th Street. If you haven't tried them, it's phenomenal. The hummus is like, So, the South Nine Grill, gosh, there are so many, too many to come across, but those are some of my favorites.
Muchachos.
Muchacho.
Yep.
If you're in the Ashland area, I'm gonna go, I'm
Yeah.
gonna spread out.
Yeah.
In the Ashland area, there's a new bakery in town called Fariner Bakery. And they also have a retail store in town that sells other home goods. Take a Saturday morning, go to Ashland. The downtown is beautiful. They've got all kinds of neat little shops. Stop in at the bakery, have a cup of coffee and a fresh roll. Wonderful.
And go across the street to the winery. No.
Yeah, the winery. There's a winery down there. Ashland is wonderful. And then if you want to see an example of a very well-run restaurant, Round the Bend Steakhouse rocked it during COVID.
They did.
Their online sales and pickup were run phenomenally. So, and they have very good prime ribs. So.
Chef House Chef too.
Yes.
Chef House Chef. Aaron Young.
I'm gonna go with clothing store, since everybody's doing a restaurant. I'm gonna plug two. One is the Vicarage, that's out in Havelock, a local women's boutique that's been around since the 70s. I worked there all through high school, all through college. They are, Tammy Spence, who is now the owner of it, bought it about 10 years ago from the original owners, and she does a fabulous job, great clothes, a very strong following, buys products that you can't find at every store. I would plug that one for sure. And the other one is Dear Myra, which is a more recently opened small women's boutique, 40th and Old Cheney. She's a former SCC employee.
Her husband still is.
Her husband still is. She was Lyle Neal's executive assistant when on Milford campus, and she was also my administrative assistant when I was the assistant campus director out there. And she opened a small boutique and
Cute stuff.
very cute stuff. So I'm plugging those two. If you need to buy gifts for your spouse, your friend, please stop and shop at either of those two stores. They're both fabulous.
Well, I know Lincoln is a Valentino's town, but I like Vic's Pizza over there. And in fact, my daughter's a vegetarian. She swears by the scrambled egg and hash brown pizza, but I didn't go that route. But it is pretty good, really good. So.
There you go.
And Lori.
Lori?
I did not talk to, Lori called me at the SBA.
Did she?
Yeah, she works for,
Yep, Lori Goldsmith is.
Lori
she owns-
Goldsmith, yeah.
no, your cousin.
Oh, Lori Balky, my cousin.
Yeah.
Yes, she works in Beatrice for a company that is a small business.
Yes.
Yes.
I was like,
Yes.
why do I know you? I know your name. And she goes, is this Tim?
Yeah,
I'm like,
that's
"Tim?"
right.
I go, yeah. She goes, you run the SBA now?
The
Yeah.
Tim
She goes, oh my God. She goes, and I think I put her in touch with you, but
It's
Tim Matan.
the foot. It's a foot.
Beatrice.
Yeah.
Beatrice.
Yes.
I'm gonna plug two businesses to shop at local, or Small Business Saturday, 10,000 Villages. If you have not been there, please go shop there. And Jilly's Socks.
Oh, yes.
They have the best, you will find a gift for everybody at Jilly's Socks. So, thank you all so very much for being here. It has been an honor. I have cried at every single one of these, and I thought I was not going to. It has been an honor to work with you all over the past however many years, and thank you, Tim, for giving me this job.
Oh.
Yay! Around, we have more coffee. We've got
more cookies.
amazing cookies from a local entrepreneur who we're affiliated with, Sunflower House Cookies, and she has a Cookie of the Month delivery service.
Oh.
So there's a different flavor every month, and you can have it delivered right to your house or to your office, and they are phenomenal. So stick around. ask more questions of our panel if you'd like, and we will see you all in 2023. This is our last
Yes.
Perk Up of
Oh.
the year. We'll take a break for December, and happy Thanksgiving. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
You mentioned the supporters. Who was that?
Ted Stewart,
Okay.
he was much more supportive.
That's all I'm gonna say.